So many, well, all of them. So far, all the Marvel DC movies that have come out have been just amazing this year, and this is the one that I didn't expect to be all that great, but hey, who knew? Thor Ragnarok is the third MCU movie to have Thor as the lead character, and the 17th Marvel Cinematic Universe film overall. Insert whistle here to indicate how amazed I am that the series is 17 movies in less than 10 years, and let's move on. Thor Ragnarok takes place sometime after Avengers Age of Ultron, where Thor has left Earth to try and find all these Infinity Stones that have been popping up over the last few years. He suddenly finds himself returning to Asgard, where the goddess of death, Hela, played by Cate Blanchett, has suddenly taken over the entire realm. But her appearance means that Thor has lost his hammer. He's now trapped on this planet to partake in gladiator fights, so now he has to team up with his stepbrother Loki, a former Asgardian, Valkyrie, and a certain familiar green rage monster who's been MIA for 2 years. Now, out of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in Phase 3, or all the superhero movies that have come out this year, Thor Ragnarok was one of the ones that I was actually the least excited for. I mean, Marvel has had a fantastic track record, but the Thor movies themselves have not been their best. I actually really do like the first Thor. That movie gets a lot of shit, but I think it's really well directed, it's compelling at points, and I don't know, it's just really great overall. It gave us that first glimpse into the more fantastical realm of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the main reason I was hesitant about Thor Ragnarok was because of Thor the Dark World, which is easily the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It's not that it's bad, it's just very forgettable, it's dull, it's uninspired. It just felt like they were sleepwalking through that whole movie as a placeholder until Thor came back in Age of Ultron. I will respect the movie for the fact that it does tease the idea of the Infinity Stones, and that there are certain plot elements in that movie that obviously follow up in this one because it's the sequel, but overall, that movie just really had no reason to exist. Thor Ragnarok, on the other hand, is exactly the Thor movie that I wanted The Dark World to be. Everything that didn't work in the previous Thor movies is gone this time around. We got no Jane Foster, even though I did like that character at points. We got no Kat Dennings as Darcy, thank God. We have no Eric Selvig, which I'm fine with. It doesn't take place on Earth, and it's just overall a very different tone compared to the first two movies. The tone of this movie is more in line with what Guardians of the Galaxy was, because Thor's off on adventures in different realms or planets, and it has a more comedic feeling to it. And that's one of the movie's biggest strong suits, is that it is very funny. I actually don't think I laughed at an MCU movie this hard, in a good way, since the first Avengers. Like, the comedy here is probably the best since the first Avengers film, which was 5 years ago. Which is weird because with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I felt like it was a little overboard with its comedy, yet Thor Ragnarok has the same tone and the same amount of humor being put into it. Not to mention that 80% of this movie was actually improvised, which was another thing that had me really nervous, but it works. I can't really explain why it works better here than it did in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but it just did. And Chris Hemsworth in this movie really does prove himself to be a very comedic actor. This is his 5th appearance as Thor. We already know he's nailed the role as the God of Thunder. He was great in the other Thor and Avengers movies, so we know he can deliver a good performance as Thor, but it's really nice to see that he can be very funny. So I feel like after he's done with Thor, he should just go on to do comedies. Although I will admit, one thing that worried me about the trailers, considering that it's a drastic change in tone compared to the first two Thor movies, is that they were going to pretty much dumb Thor down. I was legitimately worried they were going to make Thor as dumb as Chris Hemsworth's character was in Ghostbusters, where, I'm sorry, that character, he had his funny moments here and there, but he really was mentally challenged in that movie. I'm sorry, there's only so much you can laugh at that certain character. But I'm grateful that with Thor here, they didn't dumb him down, because Thor was never one of the brightest of the Avengers, but he was never an idiot. He just came from a different world. And all the comedy with Chris Hemsworth is very much character-based, and Again, it works perfectly. Then we also have Mark Ruffalo coming back as Bruce Banner / the Hulk. And for anyone who's going to this movie thinking that it's going to be half of a Planet Hulk movie, get that out of your mind right now. It does adapt some things from the Planet Hulk storyline, but this is Thor's movie, not Hulk's movie. So the elements that it adapts is pretty much the closest we're ever going to get to a Planet Hulk movie, but the main focus is still on Thor and his adventures. But with the Hulk here, they really did a fantastic job of humanizing the Hulk more than he was in the other movies. Basically, Bruce Banner has been the Hulk for 2 years straight, the longest that he's ever been the Hulk within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so being the Hulk for 2 years, he's able to speak more, he's able to be a little more human-like and not so animalistic and monstrous like he was in the Avengers films. And he's pretty much exactly how I imagine the Hulk would be when he gets the ability to speak. And we also get to really see how good Mark Ruffalo is as the Hulk, because we've seen him as Bruce Banner several times before, but he really gives the Hulk a great character in itself to differentiate him from Bruce Banner and not just become an angry rage monster. Some of the new characters in this movie are really good as well. We have Valkyrie, who's played by Tessa Thompson, who I think, I'm hesitant to say steal the show, because every character in this movie gets their time to shine. They have their little moment to basically stand out. But I really liked Valkyrie, and it opened the gateway to another chapter of Asgard that we never really knew about, and expands the Marvel Cinematic Universe without it coming across as exposition. And she was just a fun character overall. Tessa Thompson is always talented, and she does a great job here. Now, Cate Blanchett as Hela, Marvel's starting to really step up with their villains. I mean, the plot with Hela and just her motivations are very standard, so it's nothing too special. But because Cate Blanchett is having so much fun with this role, and pretty much is Maleficent. She's the Maleficent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's just so entertaining to watch. She's just downright evil, she's scheming, and she's enjoying every little bit of evil that is inside her. So while she's definitely not one of the top tier villains of the MCU like Loki, Zemo, or the Vulture, she is definitely better than most of the villains, especially Malekith from the Dark World. There are some issues I had with the movie. It's not enough to bring my rating down, but it's worth addressing. There are just some things that I just didn't care for. One of them is Karl Urban. He does a really good job with the small role he has as the Executioner, but I just feel like he didn't have that much to do. He was just kind of there for a few laughs and to show his collection of stuff that normally doesn't belong in Asgard, but I just didn't think he had much to do. There was just no point to his character. And then I like Jeff Goldblum in this movie, but there were a few points where his humor is just a little too much, perhaps, because I feel like the funniest parts with Jeff Goldblum is just the fact that he's surrounded by all of these colorful sets, all of these elaborate flashy costumes, and he's still playing dry Jeff Goldblum. He is still as dry as he always is in any movie. So it's those elements with the Grandmaster that had me laughing, but when they really try to push the humor with the Grandmaster, it just doesn't work all the time for me. Overall, though, Thor Ragnarok was quite a surprise for a movie that I was very skeptical on. They really pulled through. When Marvel had their big event in 2014 where they announced all the Phase 3 movies, when it came to Thor Ragnarok, Kevin Feige said that Ragnarok was going to be for Thor what Winter Soldier was for Captain America, a big game changer in the MCU, and they really stuck by that. Compared to Thor the Dark World, which is just so tired, uninspired, and lazy at points, Thor Ragnarok was very creative, very inspired, and they really committed to everything that they put in this movie. It's fun, it's funny, the action scenes are very well choreographed, and overall a lot of fun. The characters are great, and I'm just really excited to see what happens with Thor next in Avengers Infinity War. So Thor Ragnarok is definitely worth seeing in your lifetime. If you are into comic book movies, but the Thor movies just feel a little underwhelming for you, this is going to change your mind on them. Definitely give this one a shot. In terms of all the superhero movies this year, I like Wonder Woman, Logan, and Spider-Man Homecoming a little more because Logan was very different and it took risks. Wonder Woman was just a huge surprise considering the condition of the DCEU. And I like Spider-Man Homecoming more because Spider-Man is just more of a relatable character to me than Thor ever was. Thor's great. I really like Thor more than most people, but you can relate more to Spider-Man than you can with Thor. But Thor Ragnarok, I can't wait to see it again. And that's my review for Thor Ragnarok. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on this movie, if and when you've seen it. And don't forget to follow me on the Stardust app, Real Mr. Robinson. I've done reactions to every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie made, so go check those out. Follow me on the app. And as always, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.